this series of videos, we're going to go over the basics of C# scripting in Unity. So currently you can see I've got Unity open here. What we are going to do is make ourselves a script. So to make a script, you can go in the project panel here and click the Create button and select C# script right there. You can also just right click right here in the Asset panel and go to Create C# script, or you can go up here to Assets, Create C# script right there. Assets, Create C# script. So several ways to do it. I usually go right here, just Create C# script. Now once you create the script, you'll see the name here is blued in, which means that we can edit it, and you really want to try to name these as you create them. I'll show you why in just a second. So we're going to call this Scripting Basics. Now a couple of rules about, spell basics right, a couple of rules about naming scripts. First of all, do not use spaces in the name of your script. Unity will actually allow you to put spaces there, but that's going to cause you some major issues with your scripting. So we don't use spaces in the names of our scripts. Also, as a naming convention, we like to capitalize the first letter of script names. So capitalize the first letter. Don't use spaces. If the name is made up of more than one word, like Scripting Basics, then what I do is I capitalize the first letter of each word as I'm typing it. That makes it much more readable for us, and that's a pretty common typing convention you'll see in scripting. Okay, now that I've got the name here that I want, I'm going to hit my Enter key to save that name, and then I'm going to open this up in MonoDevelop. So you can just double click it, and then MonoDevelop will take a few seconds to open, and we'll take a look and see what a C# script looks like. Okay, here's MonoDevelop, the editor, scripting editor that we use in class. I've got this set into a little bit of a different color scheme than the default, so if it looks a little different than the one you open up, that's why. It's coloring the different things differently. I think it shows up a little better. I like how it looks. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you can hopefully see it on your screen better. Alright, so this is the shell of a C# script. You've got a few things up at the top with these using words. Basically the using is allowing us to tell Unity which different types of its built-in functionality and code libraries we want to use. So normally we leave these up here, Unity Engine and systems.collections. We usually just leave those there. Next you'll see a public class, and you notice that the name of the class here, Scripting Basics, is exactly the same as the name of the file up here, and those do have to match. If these do not match, then you're going to get an error. Okay, so the class name and the script name are the same exact thing. Alright, and these are inheriting from mono behavior. So that means basically these are mono behavior scripts, and they're able to access anything a mono behavior can access, which is a lot of the built-in Unity things that we need and functionality. So we're just going to leave that alone. You'll also see I have a curly bracket here, and when I click it, you'll notice the one down here on line 15 also lights up. These come in pairs, and what's in between a matching pair of brackets is all grouped together. So this is the way that we can group different items together inside of here. So everything in our script here belongs to this public class Scripting Basics, because it's between, all this in between here is between the opening and closing brackets here for the class. Okay, so it's all included in the class. Alright, once we're inside of our class here, then this is where we put all of our different functions and methods and instructions that we want Scripting Basics script here to be able to do. We get two kind of default functions that it just throws in here for us. This one here is called start, and the start function is, like it says here, use it for initialization. Basically start will do its instructions one time right away as soon as this program starts running. So it's a good place to get all our starting values all set up. The update function is our game loop function. This function here runs once between every frame. So as you know, as you play a game, you have a frame rate. That's how often the screen is being refreshed. And we hope a frame rate of around 60 is kind of our goal. That gives us a real smooth, good looking graphics and update cycle. So the update function here is going to contain all the instructions that we need to do every time we need to refresh the screen. So we'll get more into all these functions later on as we get through. But this is your basic shell. Okay, you need a class that has an open and closed curly bracket. This stuff in here we can keep or not keep. We don't need it. It's just things that are most common to use. All right. So today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how to store information inside of a script. And we call storing information, we store those in things called variables. So this is really mainly about variables today. And like I said, variables are just storage places for information. We need to keep track of lots of different types of information and access different types of information as we're writing scripts for our games. So we're going to look at the four most common types, how to declare those variables, which is setting up that space in memory where we can store the information. And then we'll also look at how to put information into those variables and getting it back out. Okay, so we can use variables several different ways. The most common way we're going to do it here as we're beginning is make what would be called class level variables. Basically, they're variables that anything inside of here, any function or method inside of our script would be able to access. Okay, when we do those class level variables, we put them right up here at the top. So we can just go in here and hit enter to give us more lines, and notice that all these lines have numbers, so that if there's a problem, the computer and the error log can point us to where it thinks the problem is. It's very helpful. So just somewhere after our opening bracket here for the class, so usually down a line or two, before we do any other things, is where we would put our variables. So let's just say variables go here. Now whenever you see these two forward slashes right next to each other, that's telling the editor here that this is a comment. This is a note. So it knows to ignore all this. So in the color scheme I have here, it turns to this gray color. So anything I type after these two lines, just like you see it here and here, that's just a note for the programmer. Okay, we're leaving notes here for ourselves. The computer is going to ignore anything after a double forward slash, so it's not going to give us an error or anything if we do that. So variables go here. It's a little note to ourselves. And to declare a variable, we first have to tell it what type of information we want to store. So one of the most common things we store is numbers, and there's two different basic ways we store numbers. The first one we'll look at is called an int, I-N-T. It's short for integer. And an int can store an integer. Okay, an integer is a negative or positive whole number. So let's call this maybe health. A lot of times in a game we need to know if we have health points for our player or for our enemy or whatever we're coding for. So the first thing is the type. So I'm telling it, hey, give me a spot to store an integer. Then you put a space, and then you give it a name. So the name of my variable here is health. This can be anything I want it to be that makes sense. So we try to name our variables with names that make sense for the information we're putting there. So if I say health, that's pretty obvious that I'm talking about the number of health points my player has. You'll also notice when we make variables, the typing convention we want to follow is that the first letter of our variable should be lowercase. So we uppercase script names, like in scripting basics, but we're going to lowercase variable names. So I've got a variable here named health. Now, I'm going to put a semicolon at the end here. And a semicolon in scripting just means, hey, this is the end of an instruction. Right? So the computer knows when it sees a semicolon, it's got a whole piece of what you want it to do. So in this case, I'm telling it, go into your memory, set up a spot in memory that can hold an integer, and then call it health. And when I ask for health in the future, give me what you stored, this integer you stored here. Okay? So I'm setting up the storage area. All right? Now, we can assign a value here to health. We can assign values really anywhere in our program that we want to. For instance, if I know how much health I'm always going to want to have, I could, after I give it the name and before the semicolon, I could put a space and equal sign, and I could give it an integer number such as 100. So now I'm telling it, make a space in memory that can hold an integer, give it the name of health, and then set that equal to 100. So an equal sign means assign the value on the right side to whatever's on the left side. So now health will be storing the number 100. Okay, let's put a little comment here after this. So int means integer. Okay, and an integer is a whole number. It can be, let's do it like this, negative or positive whole number. That's what an integer is. Okay? And the equal sign means give it that value. Okay? Now, there's a couple other things with variables we have to look at. If I just say int health, this makes what's called a private variable. Alright, we have to look at a variable's protection level when we make these. So I typed in the word private here in front of this integer variable that we made. If you put the word private in front, this makes this variable so that it's not accessible outside of this script. So if I had another script that wanted to find out what the health was of this script, it wouldn't be able to do it. If I don't put anything in front of there, it's going to treat it like a private variable. Okay, so if I do want this variable to be seen outside of this program, or even inside of the inspector in Unity, then I have to make it public. So just to demonstrate what we're doing here, let me just save this script. Out in Unity, for a script to be to run its code, it has to be attached to something in the scene. So the only thing in the scene right now is just a camera. This is an empty scene. So I'm going to grab my script and I'm going to drop it on my camera so you see it over here. Now you see there's nothing listed, there's no variables listed in the inspector because that one is a private variable. If I go back in and put the word public in front of here like this and save the script, then when I go out into Unity and it recompiles, you'll see that the health variable is now exposed in the inspector, which means that I can see what its value is and I can also set its value from here. So instead of 100 health, let's say I want 50, I could just go in here and type in a new value like 50, and now the health will be 50. So a lot of times we do want to expose some variables, making them public, so we can see them in the inspector, because that way when we're play testing we can play around with different values to see what effect they have on our game. Okay, so that's an important thing to realize, that if you want to see it out in the inspector, or if you want to be able to get it from somewhere outside of the script, which sometimes we need to do, then you need to make it public. Alright, so that's an integer variable which can hold a positive or negative whole number. Another very common type of variable, so we'll just make these all public, is what's called a float. A float is a floating point decimal number, so it's basically just a decimal number. So maybe I have, so let's have a float number here for how much money we have. So let's make this variable called money, and we'll just set this equal to 0.0 at the beginning. Okay, so again, a float is the type of variable, the type of information I want to store. So I'm telling the computer, make a spot in your memory to store a decimal number, a float. The name of the variable that I gave it is money. The equal sign means make this variable, fill it with this. Okay, now when you're working with float numbers, you're supposed to put an F at the end of the number just so that the computer knows that this is a float. And so that's just one of those typing conventions where we just put an F at the end. Okay, so we'll put a little comment here, say float is a decimal number. Alright, so that's another very common type of variable type that we use. The third one that we're going to look at is what's called a string. Alright, a string is what the computer stores text in. So if I want to store text, like maybe the player name, and then let's maybe put in a name, say this is Fred, like this. Okay, so again, public means it's accessible and viewable from the inspector. String means I want it to put aside some memory space for holding characters for text. This is the name of my variable. Can't put any spaces in here, like if I wanted to do this, can't do that. I'll get an error. The computer will see these as two different things. So again, when you're making a variable name out of multiple words, start with the lowercase letter and then just capitalize the first letter of all your other words in the name, and that will make it real easy to read. And then equals means take whatever's over here and store it in here. When we're working with text and strings, we have to make sure we put whatever we want to store inside of quotes. The computer needs to know exactly which characters I'm talking about. So we put that in quotes, and it will store the word Fred under player name. So let's make a comment on that as well. String is for storing text. And then the last kind of variable we're going to look at today in this introduction to variables is what's called a bool. This is short for Boolean. Boolean is a math term. In math, a Boolean is a value that is either true or false, and that's exactly what we use it for in the computer here as well. This allows us to put a storage spot to store a true or false value. So we could use something like is alive for the name, and we could set that equal to either true or we could set it equal to false. Okay, so usually if we're asking if somebody's alive in a game, usually they start alive. So we'll say that we are indeed alive. We'll set that to true, and then we'll say here bool is for storing a true or false value. Alright, and we use these all the time in coding to be able to turn different parts of our code on and off by testing if a Boolean is true or false. So very useful variable type here. So if I save this and go out into Unity, you should be able to see all four of these values in the inspector because they're all public, and we should be able to see what their current values are as well. So let's go into Unity and see what happens. So here we have health is 50 because that's what I overrode it to out here. Money is 0 because I didn't give it a value. Or I did, I said 0. Player is Fred, so you see that's stored right there. Is alive as a Boolean. If there's a check mark in the box, that means it's currently true, and if there's no check mark, then it's false. So we can see what the values are here as we go through. Now, so that is declaring variables, which is just setting up the storage spots. We talked about assigning values to variables by using the equal sign here. We can see some information on what the variable is holding in the inspector, but we can also have the script here tell us what the value of its variables are as well. So I'm going to show you another tool that we use all the time, another command. We'll go ahead and put this just in our start function for now. Remember, the start function runs one time at the very beginning of the program. So as soon as this program starts running, it does start one time. It's good for initialization. What I'm going to have start do is just send all the values of our variables to the screen so we can see them. So I'm going to use something called Debug Dot Log. Debug Dot Log will allow us to send text or information to our console in Unity Editor. So I'm going to have it send the literal characters health, put that in quotes, and if I put a plus sign there, that'll allow me to add on to the sentence. So let's actually put a padding space at the end there, and then we'll actually type in the variable name health. What this will do is it'll print this word health and a space, and then on the end of it, it'll print whatever the current value of health is. So we'll see what that looks like when we run this. I'm going to do that for these other ones as well. So debug log, this time we'll go money, and we'll have it print out our money. And let's do the same thing again here for our player name. Player name, like that, and then finally our is alive. And we'll say alive. We'll make it like a question there. And then we'll say is alive. There we go. Whoops. Semicolons. Remember, semicolons at the end of lines of code. so that the computer knows this is one independent line of code. You know, this is another one. It uses those semicolons to divide out the characters there. So when I run this now in our console, it should print this information. So let's save that. Let's go into Unity here. Now my console is down here at the bottom. See, I have the animation panel here. I have the console. This is where the computer prints out information to us. Messages, warnings, errors, things that we send to ourselves like I just did. So when I hit play here now, that script's going to run its start function. And you see it told me health was 50, money is 0, player name is Fred, alive is true. Okay? Now, if I go in here and change this, so alive isn't true, maybe money is now 50.05. Let's say our health is now 75. If I change these and I hit play, you'll see that over here now it printed those out. So when I change values out here in the inspector, it overrides the values that I set in the variable declaration area of the script. Because if I go in here, you see in the script it still says health should be 100, money 0, you know, this to be true. But out here in the inspector, when I put in new values, it will override your script values with these. So that's the way you can go in here and you can test things and tweak things. When you get the values that you want, you could either just leave them, or you could go in here and change them up here as well in the variable declaration area. Okay? But if you don't, Unity will remember what you put here. Okay? So that is the end of what we wanted to do in this video. I wanted to show you how to declare variables and set values. And then here's one way that we can get the information back out of the computer, so we can see what the current values are by using the Debug Dot Log, and just, you know, these variables literally become the value that you put in them. So health literally is whatever value's in it. Money is literally a decimal number. Player name is literally a name. Okay, so these you substitute in their value for the name of the variable in your script. All right, so that's enough for today, and we will talk more about this at another time. Thanks for watching.